I took out papers to run against Mayor Cahill for that specific purpose. So the people of Beverly will at least understand exactly what is going on here. I will be exposing this entire plan, all right, during this mayoral election, and that is the sole reason that I took out papers to run for mayor, because you're exactly right, okay? No one knows that this is $123 million. No one knows that the memorial building is going to be ripped to the ground, not one brick being saved. No one knows there's 47 buses that are going to be parked on that property. No one knows that our newest elementary school, all right, that was closed in 2008 because we did not have the money, all right, is going to be used as an administration building. I mean,
okay, David.
Thank you.
Very good. People will know it now.
Why are you running for mayor?
Basically because what the tipping point to me was this new middle school project. You know, you don't go from a $33 million project when I'm on the school committee in 2011, and then all of a sudden I sit on the middle school building committee, and in February we're told it's $123 million. $33 million to $123 million, and the mayor didn't even blink an eye. I couldn't even get a meeting to sit down and discuss this with him after that. For weeks and weeks and weeks went on, all right? You know, this whole thing somehow got out of control, and I've come up with what I think is an actual better educational model, and it could save up to $73 million, maybe even more than that, when this project would be said and done. And, you know, just to give a little history behind this project started at $33 million back in 2011. And by the end of 2011, Mayor Scanlon had goosed that number up to $40 million. By the end of his term in 2013, all right, this project went to $73 million. And that's all documented on the capital expenditure plan at City Hall. So that plan back in 2013 documented, all right, states that it's a 5 through 8 middle school. You know, and the plan was to put this school at Memorial. Somehow, 13 months into Mayor Cahill's term, all of a sudden, this has gone up over 65% to $123 million. And this particular plan calls for the complete destruction of the memorial building on this 5 through 8 model. It's a very complicated design, and I think there's a number of different things that could be done significantly to improve this plan. I believe the plan needs to be pushed basically off the table and a new plan put on the table. Now, Memorial, during its heyday during the 1960s and the 1970s, I mean, that school housed 1,000 students. So it was completely, you know, conceivable that someone could come into that particular building, because it's a rock-solid building, and do some renovations and come, you know, end the project at a fairly reasonable price. So when it was presented to us at $33 million, you know, I looked at it as, well, if you can do it for that price, all right, I'm willing to listen. When it went to $40 million by the end of that year, you know, that still was very much within reason.
That's not a big jump, yeah.
And so 2 years later, when it jumps to $73 million, at that particular point, you can't help to start saying, you know, where's this project going?
Where'd that come from?
I just know, talking to people in the city, people in my ward, and even people outside of my ward, is that no one has an appetite for a school building at $123 million, and no one can understand why would we be knocking down the memorial building, which is a very valuable piece of the infrastructure in this city. I mean, even if you didn't use it as a school, I mean, it could be used for numerous other things, particularly other citywide offices that could be placed there. Right now we have some rental space, the police that are there, you know, building department. There are a number of different things that take place. In the veterans, exactly, George, exactly. So the question is this building is planned to be demolished in January. It no longer will exist. That building has to have a raw value to the city of at least $60 million. So you're completely taking that, you know, out of play to use for anything at any time. Come January, that building is gone. The other problem with this particular plan is that you're taking our newest elementary school, a great neighborhood school, the McEwen School that we closed in 2008 because we didn't have enough money to operate it, and we're going to use that as an administration building. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. My plan calls for opening that neighborhood school and having 6 elementary schools as opposed to 5 elementary schools. That gives us sufficient room in our elementaries to bring the 6th graders out of the middle school, bring them back at the elementary school level. By not knocking down Memorial, all right, I can move kindergartners into Memorial as an early childhood center. Now I have pre-K, kindergarten, our administration offices, and our EEC program at Memorial. So that is making proper use of the infrastructure in the school. And by doing that, I can build a 2-year middle school on the high school campus here, right on the high school campus as a separate building that includes everything, all right, that would be built at Memorial, but it would only be built for 700 students. The only thing that my building would not include, all right, would be an auditorium, because they would have access to the auditorium here at the high school, or they'd have access to the auditorium at Memorial, which is even a bigger auditorium. That's a 900-seat auditorium. I believe that people that I speak with, all right, many of them, for numerous reasons, do not like this particular plan of $123 million and putting 5th graders in a middle school. They feel that it's just too large of an environment, and a lot of young children have a hard time adapting to that large environment outside of a smaller neighborhood. My point is this, all right, is that the infrastructure in this city is set to go to my model. The infrastructure is set where we can cut $73 million off the cost of this program, all right? We can end up with a state-of-the-art middle school model here on the high school campus that's no different than Marblehead or Masconomet, where they run middle schools for grades 7 and 8, all right? Yeah. We can do that. As a matter of fact, the overcrowding in our schools was created in 2005 when we took 2 middle schools and put them into 1 middle school. Yeah. The overcrowding in our elementaries was created in 2008 because we closed our newest elementary school, and we closed the newest one because it was the smallest one and it was easy to consolidate those students, all right, into the other 5 schools. Yeah. So now we created overcrowding at the elementary level. So here we come in 2011, and they're trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We need a new middle school, but we got overcrowding, so let's throw 5th graders in there as well, all right? Well, at $33 million, I was willing to listen to that, even at $40 million, all right? 73, I started getting a little skeptical. At $123 million, no, this is a bad plan. Oh, yeah. Anyone that's ever driven down the streets of Beverly knows that we can't afford this project. I mean, you just talk to people. That'll tell you. It cost me $1,000 to fix my car or whatever, driving down some of these streets, all right? And try to get off Route 128 in the afternoon, all right, up near Henry's Market. Stay out of there. Stay away from Dodge Street. Stay away from that Henry's Market. Essex Street, too. Essex, yeah, and soon to be Brimble Avenue. I mean, so we don't have one dime to invest in the infrastructure, updating any of our traffic signals around the city. You can be in parts of Beverly at 10 o'clock at night, all right, and be sitting there waiting for some red light to change, and there is not a car around. And God forbid you take a turn on right where it's not allowed, all right, you're going to be pulled over. That happened to a friend of mine whose wife said, "Go through the light. There's no one around." Sure enough,
whoops.
The one around was the cop, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, so it happens. They're just, you can't. How can you say we can afford this project, all right, when we can't do some of the basics in this city presently? My biggest problem is to knock down that Memorial building. That is a rock-solid building. Yes, it needs cosmetic work. We haven't put a dime into it in probably 2 decades, all right?
Yeah.
You know what our city streets look like. They look like hell, all right? And that's another reason why I'm opposed to this middle school project. When a city looks the way Beverly does, all right, and you can justify, all right, spending over $100 million, and this hasn't even been disclosed properly, all right? The fact of the matter is there's a bond out there for $60.8 million. That doesn't include 1 penny of interest. No, 1 penny of interest, all right? Over the term of the 28-year bond, that's over $114 million that the taxpayers of this city are going to pay. Can you imagine going in and getting a loan for your house, even a home equity loan, any type of loan that a bank gives you, and they don't disclose to you what the actual cost of this is? That has never been disclosed, all right, to the taxpayers of this city. All right, at the public hearing, I never heard it mentioned once. In public hearing, what a joke that was. All right, there wasn't one robocall the mayor sent out in regards to that public hearing. How many robocalls did he send out on the Memorial Day parade? How many robocalls did he send out to say, oh, school's out? All right, he, at a drop of a hat, all right, he sends out a robocall. Here we have the largest project in the history of the city of Beverly. The history of the city of Beverly, and he doesn't do one thing. Of the people that talked, they were all city and school employees that were there, other than a handful of other people that found out one way or another that there was a public hearing going on. This has been, you know, for a mayor that tried to, you know, paint a picture of Mayor Scanlon as the man behind the Iron Curtain, all right? And he's supposed to be Mr. Transparency? No, I don't see it. I don't see it at all. Anyone that's walked through the memorial building, all right, in the last few years, that building, all right, looks, if you go through those corridors, they look as good as they did, all right, back 30, 40, 50 years ago, all right? Under my model, that becomes an early childhood center. We have pre-K and kindergartners there in the administration offices. What safer place to put your pre-K people, kids, all right, and your kindergarten kids, all right, in our special EEC program than the same building where the administration offices are, all right? Under my plan, that calls for that. You know, look at, they have used as the number one reason that we have to build this monstrous, all right, middle school is that we don't have enough space in our elementary schools. When our newest elementary school has been closed since 2008 because we did not have enough money to run that school. All right? So here we are, not enough money to run the school. And that was just 3 years after we didn't have enough money to run two middle schools. So we had to squish them into Briscoe, all right? Which is the other excuse, all right? This school's overflowing. Well, with my model anyway, we go to a 2-year middle school. Briscoe goes from 1,000 students down to, you know, 680 students, all right? They'll be able to get lost in the corridors over there. When Beverly High School, if you take a look in 1965 when Beverly elementary schools. That doesn't mean we have kids in corridors or whatever. It just means that we don't have a science room, an art room, all right, out there that is currently being used for that purpose. Now we're using them as a classroom. So a school might be minus an art room, all right? But that's 5.5. McEwen has 16 classrooms. Under my math, all right, that I was taught, all right, that still leaves us with a surplus of 10.5 classrooms in this city. The taxpayers, all right, are getting ripped off. All right, they paid to have that school built, and it opened in 1998. It's open for 10 years and it's closed, and then we go to the MSBA. How can you believe anything? First of all, you said, well, what about the wiring at Memorial, this, that, and the other thing? How can you believe anything that they're telling you in regards to my plan or anything else that I'm saying? When they went to the MSBA, and built a story that we did not have enough room in our elementary schools when that McEwen school is sitting there, the newest school not being used, when we have 16 classrooms. If we went to my plan tomorrow, all right, we have extra rooms. All right, there is no overcrowding whatsoever in this city. All right, so that's, Elliot, why I'm running for mayor. Because this is absolutely ridiculous, and I refuse to sit as a member of the school committee, all right, and drink this Kool-Aid that we were being given, all right. I just said, no way. The mayor doesn't want to discuss this. He doesn't want to be truthful. He's chairing these meetings. All right, I would think that he's a fiduciary responsibility, all right, to the taxpayers of this city as a chairperson, all right, of that middle school building committee, all right, to steer the members there appropriately. And appropriately is to say, yes, all right, my capital expenditure plan, all right, had a 4-year design in there, all right, for 4 years, not 3 years, all right, and it was for X amount of dollars, and what the former mayors had in. Brian Ailes, all right, Director of Finance, at that meeting, sat right here, right next to me, all right, didn't open his mouth once. He let this conversation go around. Everyone was acting like Mickey the Dunce, all right? No one answering that. When I tried to say this is what was going on, fell on deaf ears. It was ridiculous. That's why I'm running. Well, first of all right, we need to stabilize taxes in the city, all right? We have to stabilize taxes, all right? We need to keep this city affordable for people to live in, all right? That is crucial, all right? And it starts with my 2-year middle school model, all right? Once we go, if I'm not elected mayor and Memorial gets knocked down the first week of January, this city is ultimately screwed for the next 7 years, because for him to prove that he could afford this school, all right, he had to put together a plan to give to the MSBA. It shows taxpayers, at least for the next 7 years, being taxed at the highest levy allowed by law. The fact of the matter is, he is underestimated expenses. So, in other words, to prove that the city can pay for this, all right, he's taken our maximum tax levy, put it up here. He's put expenses down here. So what's going to happen is that when these expenses, he's not able to keep at this level, all right, there's nowhere else to go on your taxes, all right? He's not going to be able to draw in more money. It's going to put us right in a position for a Proposition 2.5 override.
So what you're saying is he'll ask for an override and then say, if we don't get the override, education will suffer. Nothing else will suffer, just education.
Absolutely. That's going to be the first place he's going to go to. I guarantee you it's going to be the first place, all right?
I guarantee that
and
as well.
I guarantee you, all right, that if we look at anything that was on record here at Comcast when we had various school committee meetings at the high school, when we discussed, the closing of not having enough money in the budget, where we were going to have to consolidate schools and do whatever back in 2008 when this took place, I guarantee you're going to find him at the microphone pushing for that Proposition 2.5 override. I guarantee you that if you look in your old files, if you don't find him, then, well, I'll eat your tie.
Oh, right? Not this one. I like this tie.
How far along are we with this project? I mean, is it too late to stop it?
The city council's already appropriated the money for it. But you know what? The mayor is the only one that can sign off on contracts. All right? So, day one, I just refuse to sign off on any contracts. At one of the city council meetings, all right, Brian Ailes said to some of the councilors in one of their subcommittees that the city was bringing in approximately around $2 million a year, all right, in additional revenues. All right. That means we're being overtaxed, all right, by $2 million a year. Well, let's put it to good use. I think the residents of the city want that to go to good use. They don't want it for us. They don't want to see us using that money paying off debt. All right? They want to see us using that money to fix the roads, to go down to the harbor area. We should put a replica of the Hannah in Beverly Harbor, all right? No different, all right, than the Mayflower 2 that sits in Plymouth Harbor, all right? The next thing that we should do is we need to open up walking paths along the shoreline, all right? No different than a Gunquit, Maine, all right? And then what we need to do is get access to some of those, all right, various mansions in Beverly Farms, no different than Newport, Rhode Island, all right? Beverly could be all of those in one, all of those things in one, all right, if the focus was in the right direction, all right?